The North Carolina head football coach, Larry Fedora, had some things to say. This was media day, and Larry Fedora says that the game of football is under attack.
The things that we change year in and year out and tweaking the game for player safety, all of those things, I think are good for the game. And I said it in there. I think the game is safer right now than it's ever been in the history of the game. That doesn't mean you're going to eliminate all the injuries. It's not possible. But the game is better than it's ever been. And I believe the game's under attack right now. I really do. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose what the game is all about. There will be a decline of our country. There's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. I think because the lessons that you learn in the game of football relate to everything that's going to happen in the rest of your life. If we stop learning those lessons, we're going to struggle. And in some ways, we're struggling more now than we ever have. Are we ever going to be a perfect country? No, not by any means. But I do think the game of football has had a major impact on who we are as a country.
So that's Larry Fedora. That's the North Carolina head coach. But then he went a step further. He's not sure that there's a correlation, a connection between football and the brain injury CTE.
I'm not sure that anything is proven that football itself causes it. Now, we do know from what my understanding is that the repeated blows to the head cause it. So I'm assuming that every sport that you have, football included, could be a problem with that, right? As long as you've got any kind of contact, you could have that. That does not diminish the fact that the game is still safer than it's ever been.
So he's the football coach at North Carolina, under fire after he questioned the validity of studies on the degenerative brain illness that affects players, CTE. Saying football is under attack while answering questions yesterday, the ACC media days in Charlotte. I think the University of North Carolina has one of the foremost experts in CTE. So I would think Larry should talk to this foremost expert who's on campus, who could probably enlighten him. He did talk about, he met with a 3-star general and said that what makes the U.S. military the best in the world was football. According to Larry Fedora, he said that the general told him most of all our troops have grown up and played the game at some point in their life, at some level, and the lessons that they've learned from the game is what makes us who we are. He didn't name the general. In a study published last year, CTE was found in 99% of deceased NFL players' brains that were donated to scientific research. Kind of surprised there with what Larry had to say, and Larry should probably do a little better research there on CTE. And, is the game safer? Well, I hope it's safer than 50 years ago, 100 years ago, when people actually died playing football. I mean, do you want to keep it like it was back then? Yeah, see.
But he's touting how safe the game is now while saying we're destroying it.
Under attack.
So do you think that we're making it safer, or are we destroying it, or are you doing both of those same things?
It feels like...
I don't understand how to process what he's saying.
Yeah, he's saying two different things. It's safer, but it's under attack, and this is what makes us great. This is what makes us who we are. I still think that we're in that gray area where you still have deniers here with CTE. That's part of the problem. Let's acknowledge what it is. And I've said before, the lost generation here is the player who plays college football and doesn't play in the pros. Because nobody is following their medical condition. 20 years from now, 30 years, nobody is caring. There's more hitting in college, in practice, than there are in the pros. And the better you are, the more likely it is you're going to get some kind of brain damage. The longer you play, the more head trauma you're going to face. And until we can come up with something that will cushion the brain, which it feels like right now you're not able to do it, what we're trying to do, and what I told you about a couple of years ago, they're trying to make teams relearn how to tackle. Rugby. They're trying to teach players to tackle like they do in rugby, where you don't use your helmet. It doesn't make the game soft. It makes it smarter. It makes it so players can have, if you really care about them, which, let's be honest, how many NFL fans really care about the player when we're done with the player? I don't know who cared about Mike Webster when he was on the streets and, living out of a box and had CTE and one of the greatest centers to ever play the game. I don't know how many people cared. I don't know how many people care about these college players when they don't play again and the brain damage that they suffer. So I think we're being hypocritical. Do you really care about these players, or do you care about your sport that you want it to look like it used to look? We just have to be smarter with all of this. NASCAR had to be smarter. They didn't have padded walls. They were crashing into cement. Then we put the Hans device on because we lost Dale Earnhardt Sr. Should we have just stayed with it? Hey, come on, that's not racing. We want to see you guys put your life on the line. It's all for our entertainment purposes. We're watching, the Lions versus the Christians here. Hey, come on, we want entertainment. I would love to have Dale Sr. alive. Then what happened? Even though you need something like that to bring about change, drastic change. But Larry Fedora's got to get a clue here. I don't feel less American or less of a country, or our military is not as powerful because we're changing rules in football. Let's get our priorities straight. Man, I'll tell you what, there's, not any brain damage here. Our military's not as strong as it should be. I believe football builds character, but I believe we can build character in other ways. I don't sit there and go, my son didn't play football, he has no character. Or he has less character than somebody else who did. I mean, if you're swimming, water polo, baseball, I'm going to guess I can build character there, and you're not getting hurt the same way you are in the NFL. Would you guys check? I believe this is true. I think the University of North Carolina has one of the foremost experts on CTE. Yeah, Paulie.
But guys like Larry Fedora follow from the top down. For years, the NFL, and it still does, they always say, well, we'll look at the studies. We'll take this into advisement. They never say, it goes back to it's like cigarettes 25 years ago. You never admit the sport is dangerous. You never use that phrase. Football is dangerous because then parents won't let their kids play. So I think coaches, even though it's wrong what he said, they're following the old thing where you just never admit flat out that it's dangerous. Yeah, you use semantics to get around it.
We can't do that anymore. We can't. We have to be smarter about this. You have Hall of Fame players. Junior Seau shot himself. He shot himself in the chest. He killed himself. He wanted to make sure his brain was, functioning and could be donated to science, to study it. I mean, you can't. We just can't look away and go, no, it's that's not going to happen here, or that's not true, or there's no connection here. There is a connection. And the sooner we embrace it, the sooner that we can come up with a smarter way to play football. Because you're not going to be as entertained if you don't see some guy laid out, or what? A guy goes over and gets into the concussion tent? Man, I don't need to see Tom Savage, that video again. Show that to Larry Fedora, and you tell me, Larry, what do you got? What's going on there, Larry? That's a dude that's in trouble. Just see that. And then you tell me that there is no link between CTE and football. Yeah, Fritzy.
I'm reading a CNN story. You're right. Fedora's comments especially raised eyebrows because the university's Kevin Guskowitz, if I'm pronouncing it right, is a leading researcher and nationally recognized expert on sport-related concussions.
Yeah, somebody needs to introduce the two so he can help Larry, help himself. Because he didn't help himself with these comments.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.